everyone. Welcome back to episode 98, Talkoffamepod podcast with your host, Kylie. I'm so excited to have on growth coach, speaker, and podcaster, Chelsea Christensen. Thanks so much. Come on, Chelsea.
I am so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you on. So I wanted to ask you, what made you want to decide to pursue a career as a coach? What made you kind of want to decide to kind of pursue that as a career?
So let's go back all the way to my childhood, and I look back, and there's everyone has different things that they're interested in, right? And maybe like it showed up in gifts that you asked for Christmas, or or toys that you played with, or things that were important to you. And way back in the day, my very favorite Christmas gift I ever got was a Let's Play school kit. And I used to torture my friends and my siblings, and I would have them sit down and I would like teach them. And my mom was a dance teacher. She actually turned into a school teacher as well. And so for my whole life, I was like, oh, I want to be a mom and I want to be a teacher. And both my parents had their own businesses. So like entrepreneurial spirit is well alive inside of me. And I had this teaching idea that I wanted to be a teacher. And then I also had this idea that I wanted to be like an entrepreneur. Like I wanted to create my own business and I wanted to be a mom. And so, like fast forward all these years later, I have, I taught dance for a long time. I coached a drill team, and then I started into business, and I kind of accidentally started my screen printing company, but that has grown to my full-time thing. It is a business where I have lots of employees and we do a lot of work and all of these things. But the years of growing businesses, and I found myself in a place where I actually hired my very first business coach. And I was looking for someone who was running businesses, but also like living a life that looked and felt good.
Mhm.
And so that's how I chose how to hire someone. And while I was learning from him, all of a sudden this light bulb turned on, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do what he's doing. Because not only did I have the desire to teach, but I also had all of the experience of what it looked like to be an entrepreneur and to raise kids while I was growing a business and working those things side by side, and how like the struggles that I faced and all those things. And I had no problem sharing that experience with other people, but I was like, I want to help people avoid the pain and the suffering that I experienced trying to do all of these things by myself, or to be able to find clarity in what it is that they're doing. Like I can help people with that. And so really that's when I decided I wanted to be a coach.
It's amazing. What was the hardest part for you when you were starting a business? Obviously, starting a family was your biggest priority. And with my sister, she has her own business and is a mother of a 2-year-old. So
Mm-hmm.
she is obviously trying to balance both those things. But what was kind of the hardest part for you trying to do your business and being a mom itself?
I think it's really hard because no day looks the exact same. And so there's not that consistency that maybe you experience when you're just like going to a 9 to 5 job, or you don't have kids, is that every day kind of felt a little bit different. And sometimes it would be like my business really needed me. Sometimes my kids would need me even more. Getting to the place where I realized that I could be a much better like mom and also employee for myself when if I would hire help with my children. So a few days a week, as my kids were little, I ended up hiring a nanny. And that at first that sort of felt like failure to me, like, oh crap, now like I'm letting someone else like raise my kids in this way, or now I'm missing out on all of this with my kids. But what I actually turned into was like I gave them an opportunity to be loved by so many awesome girls that would
Mhm.
come and would love them. And it was really cool for me because I was able to work from home. So when it was bedtime, or if there needed to be like some punishment or discipline happening, like I could step in and still do that.
Mhm.
Which I know that's not the case for every working mom, but that was, it's hard to believe that there is a balance. It's hard to believe that like the work that you're doing will pay off. But as I look back over my experience of balancing, and balancing means giving and taking. It doesn't mean that it's this
Mhm.
perfect harmony, like a 50-50 split. It doesn't mean that. It means like this balance of like give and take, and sometimes one is going to need more attention and sometimes it's the other thing. And so being willing to be flexible and to not be stuck in like the guilt and the shame that can come from being a working mom. And then also like looking back and seeing the lessons that were learned, that I believe that my children have learned by watching me do things that feel important to me, or that have really like it's me stepping into my ownership of my power or my dreams and my gifts. So being able to step into that and be the example has been like the most rewarding thing ever.
I love that. And so you help passionate women navigate the dance of growth in businesses, life, and motherhood. Like, how can women that struggle with those things make a better living with those issues that they're struggling with?
Sorry, it's cutting out. What can you ask that question again?
Yeah. And so, like I said, like you help passionate women navigate the dance of growth in business, life, and motherhood. Like, how can like women that struggle with those things make a better living with those issues that they're struggling with?
So because I picked the topic of dance of growth because a lot of times we believe that growth looks a very specific way. And I say that growth is like a dance because it truly is.
Mhm.
It goes fast and it's slow. And the thing that makes a dance really beautiful is the movement that's happening. And so I really focus on helping people see the movement that is currently happening and then also focus on the movement that they would like to see happen. And really find peace and joy and happiness in the process of each season of growth. So a lot of times we're having these experiences that feel bad or hard or heavy. And if we can either let it feel bad, hard, or heavy, or we can say, this is really hard, but I
Mhm.
see the growth that's happening here. I see that it is pushing me to a new level of strength. I see that it's pulling out courage and fight in me that I didn't even know existed. So we can really take each individual season of growth and make it mean something so beautiful in our lives and our businesses and in motherhood.
Exactly. And so like when if people are like kind of interested in doing a business or kind of want to start a business, like what in your opinion are kind of the first steps of starting a business? Because I know some people, especially me, have sometimes struggle with starting something, especially like a business.
So a lot of people, when they want to start something, they make up a whole like list of things that they need to do to start
Mhm.
the business. And the reason why we do that naturally is because the more things that we have to do to get started, the more time that gives us in our mind to be able to like put it out there. So it's actually
Mhm.
we're creating roadblocks for making us have to make movement. And so I would say start right away. Start right away. If you have a desire for a business, the chances of that business is that you're like solving a problem for someone. So
Mhm.
you have a product or a service that is going to solve the problem. So knowing what problem you're going to solve and then start speaking to your customers. A lot of people sell a lot of stuff before the thing's even created because they already
Mhm.
know what problem they're going to solve. So put your offering out there. You have business once you have a solution or a product or a service and someone who's willing to pay for it. That's the start of a business.
100%. And so, like, if people are kind of struggling with in motivation, especially business or whatever they kind of do or work, kind of like, what are some topics on how to become better motivated in your job or your business?
I think motivation is like people want motivation to feel like excitement or like I can do this or confidence. Like they think that so motivation comes from purpose. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are clear on the purpose that the real reason why you want to do the things that you want to do or what you believe that your product or your service can do for someone, that's motivation. Motivation
Mm-hmm.
isn't like someone knocking on your door like all right, you got this, you can do this, or like I believe in myself, I can like this. Motivation is truly choosing your purpose over anything else. It's being
Mm-hmm.
so committed to the purpose that even when it feels hard, even when it feels scary, even when it feels overwhelming or like you're afraid, it's like you show up anyways.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like for you, like, have you like kind of like have you ever had that time where you kind of struggled as like a coach or as a mom where you were like, oh my God, this like I'm like this is too much for me. Like I can't deal doing two things or a million things at once. Because for me, I like even if I do a million things a day or a week, I get unmotivated. I'm like, God, like this is I can't do this anymore. Like all,
Yeah.
you
If you
know,
haven't wanted to
giving
quit
it.
1 million times, then you're probably abnormal, right? We
Hmm.
all want to quit. We all want to quit a million times. Things feel overwhelming to all of us. When you're feeling stuck in for whatever reason, or you're feeling like burned out, I always say do something that sparks creativity again. And sometimes that's going out for a walk. Sometimes that's being with your kids. Sometimes that's going and doodling on your iPad. Sometimes it's watching a home renovation show. Sometimes it's talking to a friend or laughing or going to your favorite coffee shop, like whatever it is. It's like you have to put a stop to the spiral that your mind's experiencing.
Hmm.
So your mind is like, I'm overwhelmed. This is too hard. I can't do this anymore. Do you see how this is like a spiral down to
Hmm.
nowhere? And
Hmm.
so we have to shift the energy, and we shift the energy by changing up our physical surroundings. It changes changing up what we're doing, the way we're thinking. And so something that has nothing to do with actual work is what I recommend. Yesterday I posted a reel that was like, do you know what makes you feel alive?
Hmm.
And sometimes when we get stuck in the hustle and the grind and the doing, we forget what makes us feel alive. And when we go back to those things and even experience them for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, all of a sudden, like, we're like, oh, okay, everything's not as bad as it seemed. Like
Hmm.
everything is not over. I don't have to quit everything. I don't have to burn it all to the ground. It's like, no, I just needed a reset. And now I have dropped down those walls. I've like stepped up the stairs a little bit and let go of like that overwhelm to be
Hmm.
able to like step back into your purpose.
Exactly. And so, like, what are kind of some things people can do to make their life easier if they're overscheduled or overwhelmed with work? Because for me, like, I like deal with that every single day. I'm like, oh God. Like, I always ask people how, like, they can be make do life even though they are overscheduled and overwhelmed with work. Like, what is kind of some tips for people to kind of balance their schedule and still enjoy life at the
Mhm.
same time?
Yeah. So you're the only person who can set up your schedule for yourself.
Hmm.
You agree to everything that you put on your schedule. And so yesterday I was actually having a call with one of my clients, and we were talking about the concept of chasing pennies, or like 100 pennies or $1. And um that concept, if you think about it, like we can chase 100 pennies constantly and fill our schedule full of 100 different things, and they can add up to $1. Or we can say, this is the most important thing to me. This is my highest priority. And it's going to be a lot more work, and it's going to be a lot more time. But it's also going to be one thing that gives me $1 instead of 100 things that give me $1, 100 pennies. Do you see what I'm saying
Yeah.
there? So
Yeah.
we can feel sometimes people want to fill up their schedule and their life with 100 things because it's this fake belief of, then I'm valuable, then I'm busy and productive, and then I'm in high demand,
Hmm.
then I'm so busy, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so because they start believing that makes them seem successful.
Hmm.
But when we lose control over our lives and our schedule, and we're trying to balance all those think about how much harder it is to carry 100 pennies than it is
Hmm.
to carry $1. Does
Hmm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
So it is prioritizing, reprioritizing, knowing what you're signing up for, knowing what your most important things are, making sure that you're committing to all the dollars, not all the pennies.
Exactly. And so, like, you have started the Dance of Growth podcast dedicated to hearing people's experiences of growth, from struggle, positive growth, unexpected growth, and even prepared growth that help individuals to be ready for big things. What was like kind of like the idea of starting the podcast, and what do you hope people kind of take away from it?
So I had a dream of starting a podcast for so many years. And like I talked about earlier, I thought of all the things that I needed to figure out before I launched the podcast. So I kind of distracted myself by all the to-dos and the overwhelm of all the things, when finally I was like, oh my gosh, like I just need to hire someone to do all the tedious stuff that that overwhelms me. I just need to get it started. And now it's like the most fulfilling thing in my life, because I wanted a place where, obviously, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor. And so I wanted a place where we could really do that. And on social media, it's like I can give little tiny, tiny bite-sized pieces of information and knowledge and experience, but people really don't have the attention span on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you're you are spending your time on social media, but people don't really have the attention span to sit and to listen and to learn. But I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, where is that audience? And the audience is the people who are putting these podcasts in their ear while they're multitasking, doing different things. And so for me, I was like, okay, my audience is there. Those are the people who I want to reach and touch. I wanted to have these heartfelt, meaningful conversations with some incredible humans, and also highlight that like everyone goes through seasons of growth.
Mhm.
Everyone experiences the highs, the lows, the this the like level staying the same for a long time that feels really frustrating, but we all experience it. But there's something to learn in each different season, and so that's where it came from, and that's why I decided to launch.
That's amazing. Like when I kind of first like started out at this podcast, like I didn't even picture myself doing a podcast. I always thought like,
Mm,
oh, this is like that's probably stupid of me to do. Like obviously, I grew up with two journalists in my family in my hometown, Pennsylvania, and so obviously I have some background with journalism, but like it's not like, oh, I never pictured myself doing podcasting. Like, what was that like? Like, did you ever picture yourself doing podcasting, or is it like a
you know
thought
what?
like,
It's interesting because like I said, when I was younger and I was like, oh, I want to be a teacher. I only wanted to be I only knew that there was two kinds of teachers. I only knew that I could be a dance teacher or a school teacher, right?
oh,
And so like growing up or in my business, I never really thought like I wanted I didn't even know like podcasting didn't even exist for the majority of my life, right?
yeah.
And then also like I think that podcasting wasn't a dream, but teaching has always been a dream. And so we have to just be adaptable when life changes, when platforms change, when things come up, when new opportunities come. We have to be adaptable to like use different vehicles for our purpose. So
Mhm.
it just made so much sense for me to use this tool that has been created for me to just do more teaching.
Exactly. Like, what was like the biggest like thing for you when you started the podcast? Was it kind of like, oh, I get to meet new people, or is it like I can't wait to teach? Because for me, I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I came up growing up a very shy and quiet kid, and it made me kind of bloom out and not being shy anymore. But obviously, I get to connect with people like you. But like, what was like the biggest blessing for you when like you started the podcast?
So I kind of found myself in situations where like with coaching or being at retreats or all the connections that I had with some incredible humans, I was like, I don't want to keep all these conversations to myself. Like these are things that people need to hear. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, a lot of the people that I do interview on my show are people that I've already had conversations like this with. And then I also get the opportunity to have new people on and have those same conversations. But it was like the podcast was a way for me to take those meaningful, life-changing, insightful conversations and make them available to everyone who might not be having them.
Exactly. Like that's how I was. Obviously, like before I even had the podcast, I'm like, oh my God, like I hate having like replaying these conversations in my mind that stuck out to me. Why can't people hear them too? Obviously, it
Mm,
might impact me, but it might impact other people too. So
mhm.
obviously, podcasting is like a big way to kind of do that. People can hear you because obviously you're not only having a conversation with someone that you may or may not know, but other people can really connect with them easily think like, oh my God, this I'm so happy to hear this conversation.
hmm Yes, it's a beautiful tool for people to be able to learn from outside resources. So it's like this, it's self-evaluation, but like through other people. And I think that a lot of times people are willing to put down their walls and to be more open to like listening and learning and understanding when they're hearing someone else's experience that is relatable to them, but it's not
Mhm.
directly like about them.
Yeah, exactly. And so the final question I have for you is what is some advice for people that kind of want to help people in terms of growth or kind of want to be a speaker or like a podcaster in some type of way?
So I would say whatever it is that you want to do, start doing that. Like a few years ago, I'm like, you know what? I actually really want to like I want to be a speaker. I want to speak to at conferences. I want to speak on stages. I want to speak, I just want to share like my voice and I want to teach people through my voice. And so I just had the thought come to me like start speaking. And so that's what I did. I started showing up on my Instagram and just talking. I started just telling teaching and talking in IGTVs, in Instagram, like in stories or on my posts. And I just started sharing my voice. And all of a sudden, guess what? I became a speaker. If I want to be a podcaster, I just have to start the conversation. If I want more meaningful conversations in my life, I have to start having more meaningful conversations. If I want a business, the only way to get a business is to start. So it's truly just like noticing the things that you want and then figuring out a way to take the first step. And then after that, you're going to take one more step and then you're going to take another step. So it's committing to the process to get the results that you're really, really wanting.
I love that. And so thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was so great to speak with you. I absolutely love talking with you. And you seriously are amazing. And I honestly
Oh,
can't
thank you
wait
so
to talk
much
with
for
you again
having
soon.
me.
Of
Yeah, thank you. I
course.
appreciate it so much.
Of course. I'll speak with you soon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes. See you later. Thank you.
Of course.